You're all set to go.
Great. We're on Zoom for a language review with the Energy, Utilities, and Technology Committee. And just as a reminder to committee members, this is for people on certain reports to review their language, and the only people who have input on the report are people who are on that report. When we left off yesterday, we made good progress yesterday, and I want to congratulate the committee on that. When we left off, we were working on LD 1959. We had done I believe it was the Wadsworth Amendment or the Stewart Amendment. And we were in the middle of doing the Vitelli Amendment. We had gone almost all the way to the end. We were just doing the part that starts with section 3157. And then after we complete this, the Berry group has to review their language, and then we'll go on to whatever other language reviews we have that Lindsay has for us. And then we're going to do the public hearing on Representative Martin's bill, if we can make sure that Representative Martin and the Eagle Lake Water and Sewer District are present. So Lindsay, why don't you go ahead and pick up where we are at on Senator Vitelli's amendment, and if you could bring it up on the screen, that would be great.
Excellent. All right, so we left off with integrated grid planning, which is section 3147. So I will share my screen, and I will apologize. The handouts from yesterday, it was, I think, very difficult to see what had changed and what hadn't. So this hopefully will be a little bit easier for folks to walk through. So as discussed yesterday, this section, because there was so much reformatting, we're not going to have highlights in this specific section, but we'll walk through it. So as mentioned yesterday, the section, we now have a definition section for covered utility, environmental justice, grid plan, and hosting capacity. So these are definitions that are used within this section. Scroll down to plan development. So this language establishes the Commission's responsibilities in developing the grid plan for covered utilities, and that's defined in the definition section. Says the PUC may contract with an independent organization to assist in the development of the grid plan, and directs them to hold technical conferences or stakeholder workshops to define the requirements for inputs, assumptions, methodologies, etc. And it establishes that the utilities will be providing the data to the Commission to develop the plan. The next subsection relates to basically what happens with the plan. So no later than December 15th, 2023, and every 3 years thereafter, the Commission shall put out the plan to the public for public comment. And they will open an adjudicatory proceeding or proceedings on each utilities grid plan, and will ensure that the information is to the greatest extent practical available to the public. Scrolling down. The Commission shall require each covered utility to implement the grid plan. They may allow for a phased-in schedule, and they shall develop reporting metrics, establish baselines, and track progress. Then we get to plan revision and enforcement. The Commission may at any time, if it determines necessary, revise the grid plan to address any deficiencies, and may order a covered utility to take reasonable actions to align its business, programs, operations, investments with the plan. Okay, so then we get into the actual contents of the plan. So the plan must include a description of how the covered utilities assets and operations will be used to achieve the goals and implement the strategies of the state's climate action plan under statute, with specific reference to each element of the climate action plan, and incorporate relevant information from reports and analysis completed by other state agencies and quasi-independent state entities. Scrolling down, must assess the electric grid system of the covered utility and its relationship to the regional grid. Include a 3-year action plan to optimize near-term grid investments and operations consistent with the overall grid plan. For strategies related to customer energy consumption, they must incorporate elements of the Efficiency Main Trust Triennial Plan. The report must include more than one plan, or excuse me, the plan must include more than one planning scenario, mechanisms for achieving the grid plan goals, and then the various things they might include. And then the plan must include at a minimum forecasts of projected load, including forecast of end-use electrification, energy efficiency and distributed energy resources, baseline energy supply data and assessments, analysis of hosting capacity, including locational benefits of distributed energy resources in areas of existing or potential system congestion, analysis of available and emerging technologies necessary to enable load management and flexibility, and an assessment of the environmental, equity, and environmental justice impacts of integrated distribution plans. Language also states that a covered utility's prudently incurred costs in taking any action ordered by the Commission in accordance with this section are just and reasonable operating costs for rate-making purposes and must be reflected in the covered utilities rates. We have a plan status to the committee. So the PUC no later than October 15th, 2023 would provide an update to the committee regarding the status, and then a final report no later than July 15th, 2024. The committee would have the authority to report out legislation in connection with each report. The PUC is required to adopt rules to implement Section 1A, and then they also are to report back to the committee before no later than December 1st, 2022, with a report that includes an assessment of staffing and resources that may be necessary to implement the plan. And that is it. So I will stop sharing my screen. Actually, I take that back. Would you like me to keep that up for a minute, or?
Yes, if you want to keep it up, Lindsay.
Yeah, and I think the most efficient way for us to go through this, only Senator Vitelli, myself, and Representative Sachs are here right now who are on this report. So maybe if you go first, Senator Vitelli, and then I know Representative Sachs wanted a chance to review this overnight. And then if we could just hear from her and the three of us figure out if it's the language we want.
Mr. Chair, point of order. I believe Representative Cuddy is on the report as well.
Representative Cuddy, is he here? Oh, there he is.
He is now.
And is that why you had your hand raised, Scott? Just to let
That
me
is
know
why I
you're
had
here?
my hand raised. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
So if you don't mind, we'll go to Senator Vitelli first, and then Representative Sachs, and then Scott and I can weigh in. Senator Vitelli?
Thank you, Senator. Yep, can you hear me?
We can hear you fine.
Hopefully you can hear me. Okay. All right, so I'm just going through the definitions section. First, I understand that there is a more precise definition, Lindsay, of what a hosting capacity is from the National Renewable Energy Lab, and can get to that language. I can read it if it helps, but I can also send it to you. It means the threshold at each circuit at which new distributed energy resources will trigger upgrades or changes to the electrical distribution system and cost considerations of related upgrades and changes. So if that seems to be a more standard definition, we might as well include that. So I'll make sure you have that precisely.
And
my
that's
next
the language you want in, Senator? That's the language you want in?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
Keep
I
going.
understand the definition that's there, but I think we might as well be consistent with what national definitions are.
Yep.
So my next edit is under Section 3, plan submission. It says a grid plan is provided in a forum accessible to interested parties. I'm wondering if that should be form as opposed to forum. Small change there.
Lindsay, was that a mistake?
I'd have to go. Do you want me to go back and look? I don't.
No,
I think
if Senator Vitelli wants it as form, that's fine.
that's fine. Yeah.
I mean, I think that encompasses forum, frankly.
Yeah.
It's a more
fine.
broad term. Okay. Next suggestion is under Section 5, contents of the plan. The third line where it says with specific reference, I think it could just say with specific reference to the climate action plan, as opposed to each element of.
Got it.
And then the last edit I would suggest is under section 6, costs. Just to simplify it, put the period after costs for rate making purposes and delete that last. I think you already have that. So I think that's it.
Great. Representative Sachs, does that include everything you had wanted included?
Most, I wanted to have a discussion with the folks on this report just about 2 additional pieces under section 3 of plan submission. It had seemed like we were making sure that many entities were involved in the grid planning, and we'd done it a little bit on the fly. I wanted to make sure that the proposed language in that section to add would be the commission shall solicit input from regional transmission entities with respect to the transmission system planning and experts in distribution system design with respect to distribution system planning. Again, it was just really making sure that we were encompassing from the restore report all of the different entities. And so if that's okay with the folks on the report, I would love to add that sentence in.
And is that in addition to the language that's already in there?
Correct. It
So
is
you're not taking
right now. It
anything
doesn't. It does not reference any regional entities, and I just wanted to make sure that piece was in there, if we could, if that's
And
okay with the folks in my report.
Scott and Eloise, are you guys comfortable with that?
Melanie, would you just read that through for me one more
Sure.
time?
Sure.
Yeah.
If I can, 9 o'clock in the morning. I've had 2 cups of coffee. I'm going to go for it again. The commission shall solicit input. So again, it's just input from regional transmission entities with respect to transmission system planning and experts in distribution system design with respect to distribution system planning. So again, it was just more specific around regional entities being included in this.
I'm
Representative
comfortable with
Sachs,
that.
can you tell me where in this paragraph that will be inserted? I'm not seeing where
Sure.
it was placed.
Honestly, I didn't have a senator. Wherever that worked within the plan submission, it would be under 3147, section 3.
Yep.
And when they're talking about for me, it made the most sense after talking about stakeholders. And then it just made sense to also just make sure we're reaching out to regional folks as well. Again, they may have
Got it.
already decided
Okay.
that they would do that, and that's fine, just being a little more explicit.
Okay. I can see that fitting in there. Sorry, I was just visually trying to see where it would fit, and I would be okay with that. Maybe a little wordsmithing, Lindsay, to make it tighter.
Right. Right. It either could be in, except it could be more in plan development, actually, where they're talking about, sorry, I did stakeholder in a couple of different places. So under plan development, you see where it talks about assumptions, methodologies, tools. It may fit better in plan development section 2. I was writing pretty fast this morning. Under, under methodologies, tools that will assist the covered utilities to provide the information, and then just pop it at the end of that about connecting with regional folks as well. That would also work because it's really under plan development, making sure you're reaching out to regional entities. I see Scott's nodding. That may be more logical. Forgive me.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes more sense to me.
Yeah, thank you. I
I agree,
appreciate
thank
that.
Sorry, I'm trying to get an annoying puppy fed here, so I'm comfortable with that.
I think
Melanie?
Steve would feel very good about this, Senator.
Yeah.
Just, again, we did this language on the fly. So I just, when I was looking at it last night, I'm trying not to be too prescriptive, but just say, okay, where are some things that really make sense? So really the only other piece that I had, and this is under plan revision and enforcement, which is number 4. In listening to the 8 hours of public hearing that we had around accountability and really making sure that this is accountable, I might suggest some stronger language if those on my report or on this report, this certainly isn't my report, the Vitelli amendment, I would suggest slightly stronger language. And so to see what you all think about this, that right now it says the commission may at any time revise the plan and may order the covered utility to take reasonable actions. I might suggest that we also add that the commission may assess administrative penalties in accordance with section 1508A for any failure by a covered utility to follow any commission order to align its business programs, operations, and investments with the plan. So a little more teeth to it. It's just a tweak, but I think a significant one if we're really talking about accountability.
Eloise, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I think that actually it's their administrative penalties section. It fits well within what FOR is supposed to be about, plan revision and enforcement. And there isn't, they may order a covered utility to take any reasonable actions, but there is nothing in that section about actual enforcement. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Senator Vitelli, are you fine with
I
that?
think I would agree, Melanie.
Yep,
I'd like to
I'm
have
in
Melanie
agreement
read it
too.
just one more time.
Yeah, I'm happy to read it one more time. And I apologize I didn't get this language to you earlier today. Okay, so the commission may assess administrative penalties in accordance with section 1508A for any failure by a covered utility to follow any commission order to align its business programs, operations, and investments with the plan. So it just is a little bit more teeth to it, I think, than our current language, which again, for me, the reason was I listened all 8 hours on the public hearing, and I believe that was the intent of this, is to really just where we can tweak a little bit about the accountability language here and there.
So Representative Sachs, I don't disagree with that. I'm wondering whether that goes beyond the bounds of language review, however.
Okay, for me, this was the language that just came up yesterday, and I just, around when we talk about intent of what we had talked about within our intent with the amendment, or with the Vitelli amendment, or even with this policy, this better reflected the intent of what I felt the conversations were at the time. So forgive me, Senator, if I've overstepped, but that was my thinking, was here was our opportunity to tweak the language to go with the intent.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with Melanie. I just think it's providing another level of detail of what we intended to do.
Okay.
I don't think it's a
I will
substantive
go along with
policy
that.
change.
Thank you. And that was it. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay.
And for the pause last night, Senator, to have a chance to just take a look at the wording and say, okay, what can we do to make sure? So thank you so much. That was all I had.
Thank you. Always good to breathe.
So have Scott, Eloise, Melanie, have we got this amendment the way we want it?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, we're done with that. We can go on to the Berry amendment. So do you want to start off, Seth, and go over, Lindsay will bring it up on the screen and go over if you feel that correctly reflects what your report is.
Certainly, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Lindsay, go ahead and share if you could. And just for the members of the public out there, I really can't call this the Berry Amendment. I prefer to just call it Amendment B. You can let that letter stand for whatever you want.
I thought B was for Berry.
Well, bipartisan, call it what you will. But I'll call it Amendment B for today. And it's, I think that's where it's at. Lindsay, is that right? Would this be Amendment B?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So for the website, it'll be put up that way. Great.
Bear with me one moment while I pull up the correct document.
Great. Others on the report certainly deserve as much credit as I do here. So.
Here we go. Okay.
And what I'll do, just so folks know, is go through a few changes, adjustments to the language as we understood our motion in the first few sections. And then for the planning portion, I'll be turning that over to Representative Grahowski. And then if there are others, I don't think we have Representative Kessler with us, but Representative Carlo will go to you last in case there's anything that we might have missed. And with that, I'll be looking at a different screen here, Lindsay, so feel free to just.
Did you want me to walk through this or were you going to?
I think, yeah, if you want to just walk through the changes, that might be helpful for the general public, and then I'll go through adjustments from there. How's that?
Okay, sounds good. So the first section of this amendment defines an investor-owned public utility as a reporting entity under Title V. And basically these three sections define an investor-owned public utility as a reporting entity exclusively for the purposes of Section 120.22, subsection 3. So this relates to procurements and procedures for competitive bidding. So they have to comply with that section of Title V. Then we have a section in Title 35A, which refers back to the Title V language. So each investor-owned public utility, no later than November 1st, 2022, will have to comply, with that subsection in Title V. We define investor-owned public utility, and then there's language to allow the commission by rule to waive any competitive procurement for a utility under subsection 3 in the case of emergencies or in other situations in which competitive procurement is impractical. And these are routine technical rules. Okay, so then we get to, this is sort of the elements of the original bill. So this is getting into the minimum service standards and report card for transmission and distribution utilities. Highlighted here are the changes from the amendment that Senator Brenner had proposed. So the rulemaking, in accordance with this subsection, changing it to major substantive instead of routine technical. The rules must include specific quantitative metrics pertaining to operations and include customer satisfaction using a statistically valid survey selected by the commission. This amendment requires the commission to audit the data reported by a utility for each standard once every 3 years. States that the failure by a utility to accurately report data in accordance with the requirements of this section is subject to an administrative penalty under 1508A, and states that this subsection only applies to transmission and distribution utilities serving more than 50,000 customers in the state. The next section discusses transmission and distribution utility audits. So changing the sort of look back period. So this is within the last 2 years instead of 5. And then changing the difference percentage from 10% to 5% between the actual costs and the estimated costs. Then we get down to the comparison. So this is transmission and distribution utilities, generally not specific to investor owned. However, this subsection only applies to transmission and distribution utilities that serve more than 50,000 customers in the state. And so it requires, when doing this comparison, the comparison between a transmission and distribution utility should be compared to one that is approximately equal size in the United States. Okay, then we get down to the section dealing with employees providing testimony to the PUC or the public advocate, which is the legislature. So you'll see the competitive electricity provider versus competitive service provider language cleanup. So I'll scroll through those. Okay. Then we get to the subsection regarding collective bargaining rights. So a public utility, competitive electricity provider, or affiliated interest may not enter into any agreement preventing employees from exercising their rights to testify. More language cleanup. Okay, then we get to changes to the general penalty provision for the PUC. So this is 1508A. So it makes changes to change the commission's assessment of administrative penalties from permissive to required. It changes, there used to be sort of whichever is lower standard, it changes that to a range. So it's between 0.1% and 0.25% of the annual gross revenue of the utility. The maximum administrative penalty for any series of violations now may not exceed 5% of the annual gross revenue. So again, removing that whichever is lower language. In the case of a violation where the entity was notified by the commission that it was not in compliance with the requirements, and that it could result in the imposition of an administrative penalty, the commission may impose an additional administrative penalty, so making it clear that that would be in addition to any penalty under A, and it provides a range. So instead of a dollar amount, it's between 0.1% and 0.25%. This is existing language in statute. This also fixes a conflict in current law, just with regard to two provisions that sort of overlap. So that's a technical change. And then lastly, we get down to new paragraph E. So this is the administrative penalty specific to section 301. So removing the $1 million limitation. So it's whichever was less. Now it does not exceed 10% of the annual gross revenue. Keep scrolling. Next is a change to the limitation on imposing a penalty. So the action must be commenced within 20 years after the cause of action accrues. Okay. We get to the section regarding divestiture. This makes this applicable to only investor-owned transmission and distribution utilities, and allows the public advocate to request that the commission initiate an adjudicatory proceeding. And I want to point out this paragraph was included in the version that was distributed yesterday. This should not have, that was my drafting error. This should not have been in there. So I wanted to point that out. Next, we get to determination by the commission. So in reviewing a proposal, the commission will have to look to see if that will result in greater local control of the utility's management and operations in a manner that improves the ability of local management to protect the interests of the utility's ratepayers in the state. We get down to the franchise language. Just let you read that. Okay, and then climate change protection plan, there were no changes. Okay, so as with the other reports, we have no highlighting in section 3147. And this really is going to look a lot like what the committee has already gone over. So I don't know, did you want me to walk through the specifics, or I can just kind of point out, this language looks a lot like the language we just reviewed in connection with what report A, Senator Vitelli's, et cetera, amendment. So we've got specific definitions applicable to this section. And let's see what else. Just want to look to see if there, would you like me to just to focus on the differences, or do you want me to walk through all of the language?
I think just the differences, and those may be adjusted because I think there have been some discussions between members of both reports.
Okay.
So they may end up looking even more similar, but go ahead and highlight the differences for us for now.
Okay. So there is language here. So in terms of plan development, this amendment includes language saying that in developing the grid plan, the commission shall consult with regional transmission entities with respect to transmission system planning and experts in distribution system design with respect to distribution system planning. Let's see. Then we go down to plan submission. I believe this is all the same. We get down to section 4. Explicit language regarding the commission may assess administrative penalties in accordance with 1508A for any failure by a covered utility to follow any commission order to align its business programs, operations, and investments with the plan. And so the contents of the plan, I believe, are all the same. And so you'll notice this this amendment does not include anything with respect, any language with respect to costs, which were included in the report A. So we've got the reporting status, minimum requirements, and I believe that is it. So I will scroll back to the beginning and I'll leave it there.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lindsay. And I'll now just walk through some of our changes. I appreciate Senator Vitelli's concern about, what's a language review, what's a work session, and I just want to be upfront that I would welcome going into work session. I think it could be beneficial to all of these reports and perhaps even result in more common ground. But I think we're just for the purpose of moving through the language for now, in the spirit of a language review, I will point to a couple of adjustments that I believe are still needed. And the first of those is under section 4(1)(a), sub 3 refers to customer satisfaction. So this is information that would not be submitted by the utility and that would require a statistically valid survey. So the intent there, although I don't think we made it sufficiently explicit, was to require that, not to necessarily require that information be submitted quarterly. And that is, of course, required for the other metrics. Quarterly survey might be a bit much. So under F, we want to specify that the customer satisfaction metric may be reported annually. Let me know when you're ready to move to the next thing.
I would just chime in and say that I agree with that, and that I think it was more of a lack of proper articulation than it is a change in the actual intent.
Right. We were, Senator Lawrence said, working on the fly last Friday. And Lindsay, just let me know when you're ready to go to the next.
All set.
Okay, great. Just under that, the intent, and I realize it's somewhat implicit, but I think we'd like to keep it explicit. The intent of the required audit rather than the may audit was also to have it be at least once every 3 years. So the commission, should certainly feel free to audit at any time that it sees sufficient, and not to have to wait, for 1,000 days, to expire before they initiate the new audit. So I'm not sure the best way to draft that, Lindsay, if the words "at least" are sufficient, or at a minimum. I'll leave that to you.
Gotcha.
Okay. Moving down. I believe the next change is going to be in section 7. So no changes to whistleblower or definitions of competitive electricity provider. I think that's all tight. Section 7, the penalty provisions, which I want to just flag, I don't, in the spirit of, trying to bring people together, I don't think we feel strongly about the changes to the adjustments to other penalty provisions. That was more an effort to sort of update things, but we'll keep that in. And then under E of section 7, the very last paragraph, that third word should be shall rather than may.
Got it.
Great. Moving down. I think that does it for my portion, and I'll turn to Representative Grachowski to outline any further changes to section 12 on planning.
Thank you, Representative Barry. I had a little bit of trouble following Senator Vitelli's changes, and I don't know if this group feels flexible enough. I think they were mostly, again, helping to clarify, and because our language was based on the efforts of Senator Vitelli and other organizations, I feel like what they added, what she had mentioned, I generally felt like would be improvements to our part. They weren't major changes in my mind, but Lindsay, would it be possible to just remind me of what she had added in this section? Like the forum thing, like that just seemed like pretty.
Certainly. So from report A, the first change I've got noted is using a definition of hosting capacity that was coming, it was like a national definition, which I'm hoping that Senator Vitelli will email to me after this. So that was change number 1. Regarding plan submission, changing forum to form.
Can you highlight where that is in there?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
If I can find it, bear with me.
I have trouble with the underlining on the screen sometimes.
Nope, I understand.
Yes, that looks good to me. Thank you.
Okay. Next up relates to section 5. And okay, so the specific reference. So it's removing each element of, so it's specific reference to be to the climate action plan.
Yeah, I concur with that because there's a lot in the climate action plan that has literally nothing to do with electricity even. So it'd be an exercise in futility on a lot of fronts.
Okay. And then the last piece, I don't think would apply on this report. This was deleting the second sentence relating to costs, and that cost language is not included in this report.
Okay, yeah.
So then that was Senator Vitelli's. Let me move on to Representative Sachs. So going to section 2.
I think they're already in here.
Regional. Yeah, okay. Oh, so that is in here, okay. And then under section 4, supervision enforcement, the commission, oh, and that's already there also. So those are the only changes that I have noted.
Great, yeah, I feel good with all those additional small tweaks. Thank you, Senator Vitelli, for your close reading.
Okay. Were there other changes that you were looking for here?
Not that I had any notes on. Thank you.
Would would you like me to stop sharing my screen? I don't think we've got more to go over on this one. Then.
I think that captures it. There were a couple of emails this morning. Lindsay, those are already here, correct? Relating to the planning portion.
I believe they are. I can double
Yeah.
check, but I think I caught all of them before we went live.
Great. Impressive. I believe that does it for myself and for Representative Krahowski, but I did want to ask Representative Carlo, since he's also with us on this report, if he had additional corrections.
Thank you, Representative Barry. I reviewed the language and paid attention to these changes, and I'm all set. Thank you.
Excellent. So I think that does it for Amendment B.
Okay. So I think with that, we are done with 1959. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator Lawrence, you still there?
Great. Yep, I'm here. I was just letting you do your thing. So all amendments have been reviewed on 1959.
Yes.
And where are we on to now, Lindsay?
We will. All right. So I wondered, I guess to start with, we have an amendment which hasn't been reviewed by the committee, but the committee voted on that exact same. It was the language the committee voted on. It
Yep.
hasn't been through language review. Did you want to see it? I mean, you saw it before and voted on it, but I'd be happy to share my screen and you can look at it again if you'd like.
Why don't we share our screen, share your screen, just to make sure we got it right.
Gotcha. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen. This is LD 1107. It's a resolve directing the Maine Connectivity Authority to take further actions to bring high-speed broadband to unserved areas. So I'll just put that up and let me know if you have any questions or concerns.
Is everyone fine with that language?
Can I just ask Lindsay if you could make it a little bigger?
Yes, sorry about that.
Is that possible?
that a little
Thankfully, it's just not me asking for that, Senator Vitelli.
And this was a unanimous report.
Is everybody comfortable with that language? Anybody uncomfortable with that language? Just speak up. Okay, you're good to go, Lindsay.
Excellent. Okay, I will move on to, let's look at LD 682. This one we actually, the committee looked at on Tuesday, and I sent it around by email, and there was a suggestion to include a report back. And so I will share this. Okay, so LD 682. This relates to the Governor's Energy Office, looking at factors that directly affect energy supply costs. And so this is a resolve. This was unanimous. And I just wanted to bring this back as it seemed like the committee's intent was to include a reporting element, bring information back. So I just wanted to see if this was consistent with the committee's intent, and if this looked okay.
I forget who offered that language, Lindsay.
This was, oof, I have to check my notes.
I believe that was my bill, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yes.
And apologies if this sort of threw a wrench in anything. Lindsay had asked if we wanted to include this, component, which kind of made sense to me. We can go either way. If the committee feels strongly about taking that out, that's fine. If they want to leave it in, that's fine too. I think it makes sense, but I'll defer to everybody.
Is anybody uncomfortable with that language? Speak up, please. Sounds like we're good to go, Senator.
Okay. So that was 682. Next up, we're going to take a look at LD 634. I think everybody has seen the language, but this is the majority report on 634, and Senator Stewart, I think the group wanted Senator Stewart to be here to look through it.
Yeah.
So I will share my screen and walk the committee through the language if you'd like.
Great.
All right, let me just make it bigger.
And Mr. Chair, if I can real quick.
Sure.
So I have to jet. I've got an appointment across town at 10. But I've read through what Lindsay's got here. Feel free to continue on and whatnot, but I just wanted to say I appreciate Lindsay's work on this. And I'm okay with the language that she had presented, but know that there's still some more conversations going on. I look forward to, continuing those conversations when the bill ultimately gets upstairs. And with that, I have to jet. And so thank you for your work on this, Lindsay, and everybody else.
Great. Thank you, Senator. And I understand Representative Foster has your proxy.
That's correct. Yep.
He's going to have your back and review this for you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Go ahead, Lindsay.
All right, so I will walk through this. Starting with, perhaps a new title that more accurately captures what this bill is doing. So this all relates to the net energy billing program. So with respect to section 1, this is the residential customer net energy billing, it's a terminology change from commercial operation to mechanical completion and including a definition. And then we get to the tariff rate section. This is applicable to commercial and industrial customers. As you know, we've seen this language in connection with LD 1026 as well. So it's establishing a new tariff rate applicable to certain projects. So this includes a sworn affidavit language with reference back to the Internal Revenue Code sections. And I did want to flag this. The Governor's Energy Office had included a suggestion that may have been consistent with the committee's overall intent at the time. Commission requiring the entity that submits a sworn affidavit under this subparagraph to provide updated documentation to the commission every 12 months, or 12 months after the submission of the affidavit, So I just wanted to flag that for those on this report. And
I'm sorry, Lindsay, I got distracted. Can you just remind us which report this is?
Yes, bear with me.
You're on the ought not to pass, Seth, on this.
Okay, thanks.
That's correct. So I'll leave that there for now. Let's keep scrolling down. We can just go through the rest of the changes. And so then we've got the other tariff rate. So actually, this is the existing tariff rate. And that is it. So again, I wanted to flag this for those on the report.
Great. So let's go through the yellow language first. Is everybody on the report comfortable with the yellow language? Is there anybody who's uncomfortable with it or has questions? Okay, I think the yellow language is all good. Now, is everybody comfortable with the additional definition that the GEO provided regarding the affidavit? Is anybody uncomfortable with that language? I don't see anybody indicating they're uncomfortable, so that's fine. We can do that. And
Mr. Chair.
Sorry, Representative Foster.
I'll hold on that. I believe Representative Berry spoke.
Representative Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Foster. I just wanted to flag, since the analyst had suggested that this was substantive, I can't make the motion, but I'd be more than happy to allow for it.
I don't know if she suggested it was substantive. Lindsay, did you say that was substantive?
I apologize. Actually, this note does say this is a substantive addition. This does change the requirements, but it may be consistent with the overall intent of the committee, or excuse me, of those on the report. So that's why this was after the vote. I wanted to check.
Okay. So Representative Foster, what are your thoughts?
I'm okay with the addition, and I guess I would request that it be added in as per Lindsay's recommendation.
Okay. Anybody else on the report, their thoughts? Sounds like everybody is comfortable having that added in. Anything else to go over on this report? Representative Foster, you still have your hand up. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just before we leave this, we are in agreement with the language that Lindsay has here, that it reflects what what the committee voted on last week. But I would at this time like to state, obviously, the original bill, as she stated, the title has been changed to show that it significantly is different than what the sponsor and those of us who co-sponsored this bill had intended it to be. I do believe that some of us have in another bill, 1350, put an amendment in on our vote on that bill that reflects more what our intents were for this bill. But I would state, and I don't feel that language review is certainly the time to make substantive or wholesale changes to something after we voted on it. But as Senator Stewart referred to, there are discussions going on, and basically those are because as this bill, along with others, was kind of rushed through at the end, and as the Governor's Energy Office offered a major part of the amendment to this bill, and as we were able to take time to look at it more closely, I have grave concerns that members of this committee who spent time, a lot of time on the subcommittee to address net energy billing and the costs that would have on ratepayers in the future, that as we look at what is now listed here, and as I look at, I and my fellow Republicans on the committee have looked at what some of the changes that have been voted through with this bill, that they in fact will increase opportunities for developers to access net energy billing, and therefore will cost ratepayers even more money in the future. So that's a grave concern of mine. I apologize for missing it before the vote, and we will continue to work to look at this before it comes to the House floor. And thank you for that opportunity.
Yeah,
Senator.
thank you, Representative Foster. I don't know if Senator Stewart filled you in or not, but he and I had some discussions this morning. The purpose of this is just to get the language right as we voted on it, at that time, and get it more in detail. And he and I discussed it, and I'm willing to work with him and whoever on doing floor amendments to this in the Senate. I know Representative Sachs talked to me about some of the things she did in 1350, and I understand there's some discussions going on the IECG. So at this point,
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Point of order. Point of order. It was LD 1026 is the bill that has similar language. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I apologize for being confused. So that will have to be dealt with floor amendments. Great.
Thank you, Senator. And I would also echo Senator Stewart's remarks in thanking the analyst for all the work that she put into this to make it more clear for us. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're all set on this, everybody on this report. Great. Representative Berry, you had something?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do, and it's procedural. It's really a point of order. It has been my experience in the past that we've always deferred to our nonpartisan staff on the matter of what is substantive and what is not. I'm uncomfortable with not providing for a reconsideration motion. I think that would be pretty simple, and
well, I'm going to
probably wouldn't change any.
I'm going to rule that that's allowed, that change was allowed, that it wasn't beyond what would require a motion to reconsider at this point, and it's just getting the report out.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Berry.
Thank you. I am not going to make a motion to appeal the ruling of the chair, but I just want to register my concern about the precedent that it sets with respect to our deference, our traditional deference to our excellent nonpartisan staff. And I hope that in the future we can make sure to allow for substantive changes to be properly revoted. Thank you.
Great. Lindsay, what else do you have?
Okay, next up, so we have done 634, okay, next up is LD 1350. Bear with me one moment. Okay. I will share my screen. So this is one of the 3 reports. So we heard the other 2 reports yesterday. So this is Representative Berry, Representative Grahowski, and Representative Kessler. So I will scroll through. So first section relates to the alternative compliance payment for Class 2 resources. Setting a cap of $5 and directing the commission to consider the cost to ratepayers in the state with the interest of resource investors. Also directs them to take into account historic prices. I'll keep scrolling. Okay. Under paragraph, so this is B1 sub 1. Commission shall initiate its first.
Lindsay, apologize for the interruption, but has this been sent to us? I want to make sure I'm able to look at it.
This has not been,
Really?
this I've been communicating with Representative Grahowski.
Could you send it to, at least to the members of the report?
Yes.
I have a hard time reviewing it this way on the screen.
I apologize. You'll have to bear with me one moment while I do
Thank you.
that.
If it's easier, just send it to the committee.
That would be easier. Thank you.
Okay.
Sent.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Just a moment while I bring this back up. Okay. Oops. All right. So we covered that portion. So this is changing the date of the competitive solicitation to March 2024. Adding language saying that in conducting a solicitation, the commission shall consider bids submitted by the Efficiency Main Trust in accordance with other law, which we'll get to. Changes to how the commission will look at the contracts associated with the solicitation. So in consultation with the Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry and the DEP, shall weigh the benefits of solicited bids and changing the weighting. So we've got 15% given to the extent to which Class 1A resources utilize previously developed or contaminated lands or otherwise minimize impacts to natural lands or working lands is determined by the commission in consultation with the DEP and Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry. And actually, I will have a question on this because as I'm looking at it, I want to make sure that wasn't a drafting error on my part for this piece. So I will.
No, that was good.
That's okay. Sorry, we've got a lot of pieces moving around right now. I just want to make sure. And so this also touches on the PFAS language. And then 15% weight given to these existing categories, except eliminating the first 2. And then some just clarification here in the language. Okay. That is it there. Okay. So then we get into section 5 and 6. What these sections are doing is enabling Efficiency Main Trust to engage in the generation of electric energy and projects for storage of energy. It establishes a surcharge to basically, fund this program. And here is the program. This is the Renewable Energy and Storage Savings and Investment Program. Make that a little bit bigger. So the program is to reduce the cost to ratepayers for meeting the state's climate and energy goals by facilitating decarbonization of electricity through the financing and ownership of renewable generation projects and energy storage systems. So the Efficiency Main Trust may finance and own these projects. This gives them various authorities in connection with the program. They may use bonds, the proceeds of bonds issued for their projects for the purposes of the program. We've got some definitions for renewable generation and energy storage. The trust is directed to submit a bid or bids on at least 25% of the megawatts solicited under each procurement conducted by the commission under section 3210G sub 1B1, which we just looked at a moment ago. If the trust is awarded the contract or contracts, they will take the necessary steps to ensure the development of these projects and storage systems to fulfill their contractual obligations. The trust may also finance and own renewable energy generation projects and energy storage systems, in addition to any that they developed in accordance with a contract under subsection 2. To do so, they would have to submit a plan to the commission to finance and own these projects, subject to commission approval, based on whether the plan submitted would help meet the state's climate goals as established by statute and renewable resource goals as established by statute in a manner that minimizes the impact to ratepayers and to the greatest extent possible and is in compliance with all applicable requirements of the title. If the plan is approved, the trust shall sell 100% of its output and associated environmental attributes. And then we get down to ownership. So until the sale, they have to be held by the trust. We've got a definition of environmental attributes, establishing a fund for the purposes of the program, establishing funding sources. So the surcharge in connection with section 3210J, which we just looked at. And the trust shall be funded, the trust shall fund the program with a $500,000 loan to be repaid within 3 years at an interest rate of 3% from the sale of output from the projects and energy storage systems. And that revenue has to be made available within 30 days of the effective date of the subsection. Subsection 7 establishes that the trust would be exempt from taxation. However, they are subject to the payment of payments in lieu of property taxes. And then by December 1st, 2022, Efficiency Main Trust is directed to provide a report of the description of the actions taken by the trust under the program and recommendations for changes to laws to further enhance or clarify the program and the trust's authority and responsibilities under the program. And the committee has the authority to report out legislation. I will scroll back to the top. And so this was Representative Berry, Grahowski, and Kessler.
Does that seem fine to you guys?
Oh, go ahead.
You first, Representative.
Well, thank you, Lindsay, for going through that and for helping me draft that. The one thing I think I didn't think about that I would be interested in changing was the title. I never really reconsidered that because I was so into the guts and thought maybe we could say an act to expand Maine's clean energy economy and reduce costs to ratepayers, or just at reduced cost maybe. So that's what the whole new section is about. Thank you.
Are you guys all set?
I have a concern in section 6.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I understood in supporting this motion that that in section 6, that line was intended as a savings rather than a surcharge. And I understand that a surcharge can be a negative amount, but I'm very uncomfortable with the language the way it's reflected here. Representative Grochowski, would you be amenable to adjusting this in some way?
Like using a different word than surcharge, do you mean?
Right. I mean, I think this is really intended to be a program where the commission only approves this procurement if it finds that there will be a savings to ratepayers. And that procurement will self-finance. There's no need for the surcharge unless the PUC ends up being incorrect, and the, you know, as with stranded costs, that there might be a positive rather than a negative charge.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So there are the savings, firstly, is on, you know, in comparison to the traditional way that we have built grid scale renewables. It does still cost money to build renewables, especially on the front end. And so I think that, you know, I've talked with the Public Utilities Commission, and the surcharge is not going to be its own line item, certainly, and a lot of times it will be negative. And Dr. Silpin spoke with us last fall about the circumstances in which it could be positive and in which it could be negative. And there are also, of course, you know, long-term operating costs, and it has a different experience based on if it's coming from a long-term contract with the PUC through the procurement process, or if it's coming from the approved plan. You know, those two different things. So we do need to have a way that money is recouped from the bills, and surcharge might not be the best word, and that a lot of times it will not be much, but there will sometimes be something. It will just be less than if we did it through the traditional, you know, private equity investor model that we've been in. So I don't. If you have another word like adjustment or something that we could use that you were comfortable with. Because you're right, sometimes it won't be positive, and maybe that word kind of makes people think it's positive.
Right, it could be a negative amount. We have certainly have situations where our existing stranded costs can become negative, and then it's a negative charge. So given the intent, Representative Grochowski, what you're trying to do here, would you be comfortable? I guess the one other thing I just want to flag is that, as I understand it, this isn't just generation, it's also potentially storage. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
So would you think perhaps that a more accurate term could be efficiency main supply savings adjustment?
I do think that would be accurate. Seems like a couple words more than we might need, but if it's important to you.
It is, because I think it most accurately conveys the intent, as I understand it, of the motion that I was supporting.
Lindsay, does that make sense to you to do that?
So it sounds like the intent isn't to change how this actually operates. It's the language. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay, I don't I don't honestly know if surcharge has any special significance in terms of, I think it's just a word, but I mean, I could certainly, if there's an issue, I don't see where calling it it seems like adjustment could be substituted pretty easily there. And if there were an issue, all of these language reviews, once it goes to the revisor's office, I'll be submitting it back out to the committee, just to make sure. So if we ended up with a problem, we could certainly flag it. Because I think when we're calling, in terms of the sort of the titling and whatnot, I don't think that's going to matter too much. But if it were an issue, we can flag it then.
That sounds good to me then.
You guys can just go on. Go on, Representative Barry.
Thank you. So turning to the analyst who is probably busy taking notes. So I apologize. Lindsay, would the way that I characterized it a moment ago to Representative Grahowski be accurate, that the way this language is drafted would require that the commission finds there to be a net savings in the procurement. They've chosen a bid from this new program that is advantageous, that is preferable, that will bring a relative savings. Because that was my understanding of the motion that I was supporting. I just want to make sure that that's clear to you as you read this.
Well, I think this is, the commission, the trust has to bid in under 3210G B1. So the sort of criteria the commission uses there are going to apply to EMT's bid, just like any other bidder. Then we get down to the additional approval section. So the trust may finance and own renewable generation projects in addition to anything that they're doing under 2. So 2 is under the standard PUC bidding process there. The trust, and what the trust has to do is submit a plan to the commission, and the commission shall approve the plan if it determines the plan would meet the state's climate goals established by renewable research goal in a manner that minimizes impact to ratepayers and to the greatest extent possible, and is in compliance with all other applicable requirements of the title.
Got it. So when they, if this bid is put in by this new program, it's just a bid, and then the PUC would decide if it was the winning bid based on presumably cost, as well as the other considerations they normally consider.
They'd be treated like
right?
any other bidder. Yeah.
So there's no guarantee that because 25% is bid in, that's what it could, they could decide that 0 will come from this new program and that the other bids are preferable. Is that right?
That's my understanding, yes.
And presumably if that were to occur, then the savings adjustment would reflect that lack of activity.
That's correct.
Great. Okay. Excellent. I guess I'm comfortable. And Representative Grahowski, can you just restate for me the title, the new title that you added? I apologize.
Just let Lindsay show it to you.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Right there. I was looking at this section when I was hearing that. So great. With that, I'm comfortable. Thank you.
Great. You guys are all set on your amendment?
Yep.
Okay. So do we have more, Lindsay?
We
I'm
do
sorry.
not.
Senator Vitelli, did you have a question?
Yes, just a technical question, perhaps. The change of title for this amendment does not affect the title on the other amendments, or does it?
It does not.
Okay. Thank you.
Representative Foster, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to confirm with Lindsay that we covered our to pass as amended report yesterday on 1350. Just want to make sure of that.
Yes, however, let me just make sure. I believe we did go through that.
I'm pretty sure we did, but I
Okay,
think as I'm representing the fold here, I wanted to cover my butt. Thank you.
So it sounds like we're all reviewed, Lindsay, correct?
I think that's right.
Okay.
So what I would propose to do, if this is okay with the committee, many of these things are in different states of processing. So at this point, my goal is to get everything moving, and as bills come back, because we need final language from revisor's office and fiscal notes, as these come back, what I think might make sense is for me to put that together, distribute that out to the committee with a time frame, and I would ask the committee to let me know what you think would be appropriate, but basically, here's the final language, because it will look a little different, when it comes to the revisor's office. There will not be substantive changes. If there were, I would absolutely flag those, but you will see some language differences, possibly some structural differences. But I would propose to send out that final language with the fiscal notes, giving the committee a window of time. And if I don't hear otherwise, during that window of time, the bills would be reported out.
And what are you suggesting for a window of time?
Well, my recommendation would be 24 hours, but I know that
That would be mine too.
Is that sufficient for the committee, or?
Is anybody uncomfortable with 24 hours?
Given my proclivity to look carefully and the state of my email inbox, I would prefer 48 hours. I apologize.
Okay, so we'll make the Berry rule 48 hours.
Thank you.
Excellent. That's all I have. Thank you all.
Great. So Jason, have you heard from Representative Martin or the Eagle Lake Sewer and Water District?
I have not. I've
Okay.
reached out and had gotten no response at this point.
Representative Berry, since he's a House member, have you had any contact with him about our hearing this bill?
I have not, Senator, but I would be happy to present the bill on his behalf if that's useful.
Well, why don't we present it and table it? Because I do want the Sewer and Water District to be able to be here. Either that or we can just reschedule the hearing. I'm uncomfortable going forward if Representative Martin or the Water District is not here.
Thanks, Senator. And I'd be happy to reschedule it. I think that's probably better than my presenting it to an empty room.
Why don't we do this? I'll appoint you as a committee of one to meet with Representative Martin to determine the best time for him to hear it and do it, and we'll just get it set up for next week.
That sounds great.
Okay. Anything else that we need to do today, Lindsay?
The only thing is to meet next week, we will need to request permission. So I can work on drafting something up for that.
Great. Representative Berry, anything else?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to see if there was an interest in reviewing the differences between the three reports on LD 1959 and trying to come to some agreement where perhaps a few more votes got added to one or the other amendments.
So I think suffice it to say there are people on the committee always willing to talk, and there are people outside of the committee always willing to talk. So I just encourage you to continue those discussions as these amendments hit the floor.
Senator Lawrence, respectfully, that's the problem. I'm not finding a willingness to engage there, and to be frank, but I'm hoping that could change. I do think, though, that it's preferable to have our discussions on mic and in public, and my preference would be to actually walk through the differences together as a committee and try to explore the different. I think we may have 10 or 12 substantive differences between the three reports. So
Well, we are
perhaps
done
next-
with the bill. We are done
Right.
with the bill. It's been revoted. We've reviewed the language. I'm also hearing the other side of not much flexibility on your side.
Mhm.
I'm not going to get in the middle of this, and I don't think it's appropriate for us to take it up now. I would say just continue discussions and hopefully people can work out the differences.
Well, I'd prefer to have more than hope. And I just, for the record, Senator, have indicated a willingness to give on a number of the very substantive, the most substantive differences, I would argue, on report B, committee amendment B. And I think I speak for others on that report. I think we all understand that the bill is in a precarious position, and it would be preferable to discuss in a public and transparent way where we differ and try to come together. But
Well,
if
the
there's not a
committee
willingness,
is done with the bill. It's reported out. It will be done in the public on the floor of the House and the Senate to do it. So there's going to be plenty of time for debate, plenty of time for meetings. And just to let you know, I'm hearing the exact same thing from the other side. So all I can say is good luck and try to work friendly together.
thank you. I
Okay.
would,
Any-
I won't make a motion, but to go into work session, but I would certainly be willing to support one. And I do understand if folks just want to do it on the floor. I just, I think it's always better if we can do it together in committee. So that's all I have.
Anything else to come before the committee? Okay, then I'll declare this language